The screaming stopped, and the music cut off in mid-rave. That was worse, somehow. The silence felt cold. Claire held on grimly to consciousness. The effect seemed to be coming and going. Maybe she was going to be okay. A floorboard creaked, right outside the closet door. Claire felt a tremor go through the boy whose hand she held, and she pressed herself harder against the wall and stared out the closet door. It was a big black rectangle outlined in warm yellow. There was a flicker of shadow, and a snarl, and a man's full-throated yell, and the sound of a body hitting the floor. Then the boom of a gun going off. Claire jumped, and felt Eve and the boy jump too. "Oh God," he whispered. He was shaking all over. Claire supposed that was one thing that being roofied was good for. It kept your heart rate down in an emergency. She felt pretty calm, all things considered. Or maybe she was just getting used to being scared out of her mind. Running footsteps. The banister in the hall creaked. More shouts from downstairs. Feet pounding on the stairs, heading down. And then the distant shrill sounds of sirens. "Cops," somebody whispered. "Maybe coffee bar jerk?" He sounded a whole lot less arrogant. "We'll be okay. We're going to be okay." "Yeah, until these two turn us in," muttered another boy. "For, the thing." "You mean for attempted rape?" Eve whispered, fiercely. "Jesus, listen to you. The thing. Call it what it is, you asshole. Look, it was just... I'm sorry, okay? We didn't want to hurt her. We just... She's 16, man." "What? 16? So you can thank me now for saving your serious jail time, because attempted rape is a hell of a lot better than actual rape. The statutory kind. Did Monica put you up to it?" Yeah. She said Claire was good to go, and that she just needed it rough. She wanted to be sure we got her here." "Shh," Claire whispered frantically. She heard another floorboard creak. Everybody fell silent. The door swung open, blinding them with the wash of light, and Claire squinted at the man standing there. Red hair. "Out," Sam said. "Move!" The boys got up and filed out, looking a whole lot less arrogant than before and clustered together in the corner. It had been Ian whose hand she'd held after all. Claire saw. He was looking at her in a weird, new way, as he actually saw her for the first time. "I'm sorry about your nose," she said. He blinked. "It's not so bad," he offered. "Look, Claire, don't. You're still going to tell the cops?" "That was coffee bar jerk." "No," Claire said. "Bullshit, yes," Eve said. "A world of yes. So you'd better not try this again, ever. And besides, if you do, the last thing you have to worry about is the cops. Right, Sam?" Sam nodded without speaking. "Let's get out of here. Claire, can you walk?" "I can try." But the world just slipped out from under her when she got up, and she fell into Eve's arms. Eve juggled her awkwardly, trying to find the right way to hold her up. And suddenly, Claire was floating about 4 feet off the ground. Oh, Sam had her, and he was holding her as if she was as heavy as a bag of feathers. "Hey," coffee bar jerk said. Sam stopped on his way to the door. "Sorry, seriously. It was just..." Monica said. "Stop, man," Ian said. "Monica just gave us the idea. We were the ones who did it. No excuses." "Yeah," coffee bar jerk said. "Whatever, man. Won't happen again." "If it does," Sam said, "never mind the police. I'll find you." Things were melting into one another. Claire felt sick and disoriented, and only having her arms around Sam's cool, strong neck kept her from floating away on a tide of chemicals. When she opened her eyes, she caught flashes. The EEK frat house was trashed, furniture broken, walls bashed, people lying on the floor, and some of them were bloody. Eve stopped and pressed her fingers to the throat of a boy wearing full vamp gear, including the teeth. His blue eyes were open, staring at the ceiling. He didn't move. "He's dead," she whispered. There was a wooden stake in his chest. "But he wasn't a vampire," Claire said. "Right?" "They didn't care. He looked like one. And he must have gotten in the way," Sam said. "There are 2 vampires dead in the room. This one was a mistake." "In the other room?" Claire asked. "How do you know?" "I know." Sam stepped over the body and moved around a busted-up couch. Glass crunched under his feet. The sirens were getting closer now. "Late to the party as usual." "Was it Frank's guys?" Eve asked. "The bikers?" Sam didn't answer, but he didn't really have to. How many rampaging anti-vamp gangs could there be in Morganville? Claire closed her eyes and let her head drop against Sam's chest, meaning just to rest for a second, and she just left the world for a while. Claire woke up to the sound of voices and a headache the size of Cleveland inside her skull. Her mouth was dry as a bone, and her tongue a thick roll of felt covered in sandpaper. Also, hello nausea. She was lying in her own bed, at home. Claire rolled out, ran to the bathroom, and took care of the sickness first. Then looked in the mirror. It was horrible. Her face was smeared with makeup, her black eyeliner smudged every which way, her black sprayed hair sticking up in thick clumps. Claire started the shower, stripping off the goth disguise, and sat in the tub with the water pounding down. There wasn't enough soap in the world, really, but she tried, scrubbing hard, scrubbing until her skin was stinging. She froze at the sound of a knock on the bathroom door. Claire? It's Eve. You okay? Yeah, she said. I'm okay. Her voice sounded thick and weak. Eve must have taken her at her word, because she went away. Claire wished she hadn't, somehow. She needed somebody to ask. She needed somebody to be there for her. I was almost... The worst part of it was that they weren't monsters. Those guys, in fact. They were probably okay most of the time. How was that even possible? How could people be good and bad at the same time? Good was good, bad was bad. You had to draw a line, right? Like with the vampires? Some part of her mind whispered. Where's Emily then? Where's Sam? Sam saved your life. Which side of the line do you put him on? She didn't know, and she didn't want to think about it anymore. Claire sat under the pounding hard rain of the hot water and let it all go for a while. Until the water started to run cool and she remembered that Eve probably wanted to shower too. Crap! She jumped up, turned off the taps and dried off, realised she hadn't brought more clothes in with her, and wrapped the towel for the fast trip to her room. When she opened the bathroom door, Michael was standing right outside. He looked up, saw she wasn't dressed, and looked briefly conflicted. He solved it by turning his back. Go get some clothes on, he said. And then I need to talk to you. What time is it? She asked. He didn't answer, and she felt something sick take hold in her stomach. Michael, what time is it? Just get dressed, he said, and come downstairs. She raced to her room, dropped the towel, and grabbed her little travel clock. It was 4 a.m. Dawn was just a couple of hours away. No, she whispered. No. She'd been asleep for hours. No time to waste then. Claire put on underwear, jeans, and a t-shirt, grabbed her shoes and socks, and hurried to the stairs. She stopped on the first step down when she heard Amelia's voice. Amelie? In the house? Why? Sam, she kind of expected. Not that Michael liked any vampires, but hey, he was family, right? And besides, Sam seemed okay. And sure enough, she caught sight of Sam's copper-coloured hair when she eased down another step. He was standing in the far corner near the kitchen, with his arms folded. Amelia and Michael were in the centre of the room. Hey! Eve's voice coming from behind her made her jump. Claire turned and saw Eve standing there in a thick black bathrobe, clothes in her arms. I'm taking my shower. Tell them I'll be there soon, okay? Eve looked tired. Her makeup sweated or smeared away. Claire felt guilty about using all the hot water. Okay, she said, and edged another step down towards the living room. Eve's footsteps creaked behind her, and the bathroom door closed. The water went on. Claire heard Amelie say, Can't take it back. Do you understand? Once you make this choice, it is done. There can be no returning. That didn't sound good. No, that didn't sound good at all. Claire still felt shaky and sick, as if she'd drunk half a gallon of that red punch at the party, and she didn't feel in any shape to face Amelie again. Only so much scary she could deal with in one day. Maybe she'd just wait for Eve. I understand, Michael said, but there isn't a lot of choice anymore. I can't live like this, trapped in this house. I need to leave. I can't help Shane if I'm stuck here. You may not be able to help Shane at all, Amelia said coolly. I would not base such a choice on love of one friend. It may turn out badly for you both. Life is risk, right? So I have to risk it. She shook her head. Samuel, please speak to him. Explain. Sam stirred from where he stood in the corner, but he didn't come closer. She's right, kid. You don't know what you're getting into. You think you do, but you don't. You got a good thing here. You're alive. You're safe. You have friends who care about you. Family. Stay where you are. Michael let out a hollow laugh that sounded a little crazy. Stay where I am? Jesus Christ, what choice do I have? This house is 2,500 square feet of a tomb. I'm not alive. I'm buried alive. Sam shook his head and bent his head, avoiding Michael's stare. Amelia stepped closer to him. Michael, please think what you are asking. It is not only difficult for you, it is difficult for me. If I give you your freedom from this house, it comes at a terrible price. There will be great pain, and the loss of things that neither you nor I can fully name. What you are will change, and change forever. You would live and die at my command. Do you understand? And you will never be even the half-human you are now. Never again. She shook her head slowly. I believe you will regret this. And regret is like cancer to us. It rots our will to live. Yeah? What do you think it's like, being trapped here when people need me? Michael asked. His fists were clenched, his face tensed and flushed. I've watched my girlfriend nearly get killed 5 feet away from me, and I couldn't do anything because she was outside the house. Now it's Shane, and he's all alone out there. It couldn't be worse than this, Amelie. Trust me. If you're not going to save Shane, then you have to do this for me. Please. Was asking Amelie for what? Something she could not do would set him free? Claire reached down another step and saw Sam's eyes shift and lock on her. She expected him to say something, but he just gave her a very small shake of his head, warning her. She retreated back to the top of the stairs, hesitating. Maybe she should get Eve. No, the shower was still running. She should wait. Michael wouldn't do anything stupid. Would he? While she was hesitating, she heard Amelie say something that she couldn't quite understand except for one word. Vampire. She heard Michael say yes. No. Claire jumped up and pelted down the step as fast as she could, but before she could get to the bottom, Sam was standing there looking up at her, blocking her path. She looked over the railing at Michael and Amelie, and saw Michael watching her. He looked scared, but he gave her a smile, broken, like the one Shane had put on for her in the cage, trying to show it didn't matter. It's okay, Claire, he said. I know what I'm doing. This is the way it has to be. No, it doesn't! She heads down another step, clinging to the rail with both hands. She felt hot and disoriented again, but she figured it was going to fall. At least Sam was there to cushion her. Michael, please don't do this. Oliver tried to make me a vampire. He'd made me into... Michael made a disgusted gesture at himself. I'm half alive, Claire, and there's no going back. I can only go forward. She couldn't say anything to that, because he was right. Right at every point. He couldn't go back to being just a regular guy. He couldn't live with being stuck here, helpless. Maybe he could have, if Shane hadn't been taken. But now... Michael, please. Her eyes were filling up with tears. I don't want you to change. Everybody changes. Not as you will, Amelie said. She was standing there like the Snow Queen, all perfect and white and smooth. Nothing really human about her at all. You will not be the man she knows, Michael. Or the one Eve loves. Will you risk that too? Michael took in a deep breath and turned back towards her. Yes, he said. I will. Amelia stood in silence for a moment, then nodded. Sam, she said, take the child away. This wants no witnesses. I'm not leaving, Claire said. Yeah, good plan. Sam walked up 3 steps, scooped her up into her arms and carried her upstairs. Claire tried to grab for the railing, but her finger slipped away. Michael! Michael, no, don't do this! Sam carried her to her room and dumped her on the bed, and before she could struggle up to a sitting position, he was already outside, closing the door. Later, thinking back on it, Claire couldn't say if she heard the scream or felt it. Either way, it seemed to vibrate through the bones and boards of the glass house, through her head, and she moaned and clapped her hands over her ears. That didn't stop it. The scream just went on, shrill and painful as a stream whistle. And Claire felt something pull at her, like she was made of cloth, and a gigantic, malicious kid was yanking at her loose threads. And then it just stopped. She slid off the bed, ran to the door, and opened it. Sam was nowhere to be seen. Eve was rushing out of the bathroom, clutching her bathrobe around her dripping body, her black hair plastered wet against her face. What's happening? She yelled. Michael? Where's Michael? The 2 girls exchanged a desperate look, and then ran for the stairs. Amelia was sitting in an armchair, the one Michael usually used. She looked drawn and tired, and her head was bent. Sam was crouched next to her, holding her hand, and he rose to his feet when Eve and Claire arrived breathlessly at the bottom of the stairs. She's resting, he said. It takes a lot to do what she did, a lot of strength, and a lot of will. Leave her alone, let her recover. Where's Michael? Eve demanded. Her voice was shaking. What did you do to Michael, you bastard? Easy, child. Sam had nothing to do with it. I set him free, Amelia said. She raised her head and let it rest against the back of the chair, eyes closed. So much pain in him. I thought he could be happy here. but I see I was wrong. One such as Michael can never stay caged for long. What do you mean you set him free? Eve was stammering now, her face ashen without any goth cosmetics to help. You killed him? Yes, Amelia said. I killed him. Sam? Claire couldn't see why she snapped the other vampire's name until Sam turned in a blur and met another blur coming at them from across the room. That turned into a struggle. Two bodies moving too fast for Claire's eyes to follow until it ended, and one was flat on his back on the floor. That was Michael on his back. But not the Michael she knew. Not the one she'd been seen 5 minutes before, talking to Amelia, making this choice. This Michael was terrifying. Sam was having trouble holding him. Michael was struggling, trying to throw him off. And he was snarling. Oh God, and his skin. His skin was a pale colour of marble and ashes. Help me up, Amelia said quietly. Claire looked at her, stunned. Amelia was holding out a queenly hand, clearly expecting to be obeyed. Claire gave her help up to her feet. Just because she'd always been taught to be polite, embraced the vampire as she seemed about to lose her balance. Amelia found her balance and gave her a weary, thin smile. She let go of Claire's arm and walked slowly, painfully, to where Sam was fighting to keep Michael down. Claire looked at Eve. Eve was backed into the corner, her hands in her fists covering her mouth. Her eyes were huge. Claire put her arm around her. Amelia put one white hand on Michael's forehead, and he instantly stopped struggling. Stopped moving at all, staring right up at the ceiling with fierce, strange eyes. Peace, Amelia whispered. Peace, my poor child. The pain will pass. The hunger will pass. This will help. She reached into a pocket of her dress and took out a very small, a very thin silver knife, no bigger than a fingernail, and sliced a gash across her palm. She didn't bleed like a normal person. The blood seeped out, thicker than normal, and darker. Amelia put it to Michael's lips, pressed it, and closed her eyes. Eve screamed beneath the cover of her hands, then turned blindly and hid her face against Claire. Claire wrapped her in a tight, shaking hug. When Amelia withdrew her hand, the gash was closed and there was no blood on Michael's lips. He closed his eyes, swallowing, gasping. After a few long seconds, Amelia nodded to Sam, who let go and stepped back. And Michael slowly rolled over on his side and met Claire's horrified stare. His eyes. They were the same colour, and not the same at all. Michael licked his pale lips, and she saw the bright white flicker of snake fangs in his mouth. She shuddered. Behold, Amelia said softly, the youngest of our kind. From this day on, Michael Glass, you are one of the eternal of the great city, and all will be yours. Rise. Take your place among your people. Yeah, Sam said. Welcome to hell. Michael got to his feet, neither of them helped him up. That's it? Michael asked. His voice sounded strange, deep in his throat, deeper than Claire remembered. It gave her a little shiver at the base of her spine. It's done? Yes, Amelia said. It's done. Michael walked towards the door. He had to stop and brace himself against the wall on the way, but he looked stronger every second, stronger than Claire felt comfortable with, in fact. Michael, Amelia said, vampires can be killed, and many know the ways. If you grow careless, you will die, no matter how many laws Morganville holds to protect us from our enemies. Amelia glanced at the two girls standing together in the corner. Vampires cannot live among humans. It is too difficult, too tempting, you understand? They must leave your house. You must have time to learn what you are. Michael looked at Eve and Claire, more at Claire than Eve, as if he couldn't stand to really face her yet. He looked more like himself now, more in control, except for the pale skin. He might nearly have been normal. No, he said. This is their home, and it's my home, and it's Shane's home. We're a family. I'm not giving that up. Do you know why I stopped you? Amelia said. When I ordered Sam to stop you? Because your instincts cannot be trusted, Michael. Not at this point. You cannot care, because your feelings for them will hurt them. Do you understand? Were you not moving towards these two girls with the intention of feeding on them? His eyes went wide and suddenly very dark. No. Think. No. You were, Sam said quietly from behind him. I know, Michael. I was there once, and there was no one to stop me. Michael didn't try to deny it again. He looked at Eve, right at her, with such terrible dawning pain that it hurt to see it. It won't happen again. Eve hadn't said a word since all this had started, so it was a little shocking to hear her say that. So calmly, so normally. I know, Michael. He wouldn't have done this if he was going to hurt any of us. He'd die first. He did die, Amelia said. The human part of him is gone. What is left is mine. She said it with a little regret. which didn't surprise Claire much. She'd seen it in Amelia's infinitely weary eyes as she'd helped her up. Come, Michael, you need food. I will show you where to go. Wait a minute, he said, please. And he stepped away from her and held out his hand to Eve. Amelia drew a breath to tell him something. Probably no, but she didn't speak. Sam didn't either, but he turned and walked away aimlessly, circling the room. Claire reluctantly let go of Eve, and Eve walked directly to Michael, no hesitation at all. He took both of her hands in his. I'm sorry. There wasn't any other way. Michael swallowed, his eyes fixed on Eve's. I've been feeling it more and more, like this pressure inside. It's not just that I needed to do this to help Shane. I just needed to stay sane. And I'm sorry. You're going to hate me. Why? Eve asked. It was half bravado and it had to be, but she sounded certain. Because you're vamped? Please. I loved you when you were only halfway here at all. As long as you're with me, I can deal, Michael. For you, I can deal. He kissed her, and Claire blinked and looked away. There was a lot of hunger in that kiss, and desperation, and it was way too personal. Eve wasn't the first one to pull away either. When he stepped back from her, he was the old Michael after all. Never mind the paler skin and the odd shine to his eyes. That smile? He was Michael. And everything was going to be okay. He wiped away Eve's silent tears with his thumbs, kissed her again, very lightly, and said, I'll be back. Amelia's right. I need to... He hesitated, glanced at Amelia, and then back down at Eve. I need to feed. I guess I need to get used to staying that. His smile looked a little dimmer this time. I'm going to miss dinners. You won't, Sam said. You can still eat solid foods if you want to. I do. For some reason that seemed really important. It was something they could hold on to. I'll make dinner tonight, Claire said, to celebrate getting Shane home. It's a deal. Michael let go of Eve and stepped back. I'm ready. But come outside, Amelia said. Come back to the world. Michael might have become a vampire, but watching him stand outside in the night air, breathing in his freedom, Claire thought that was as human as it could get. Hello everyone, thank you for listening to the audio file or audio reading I've done of a Rachel Kane book. I'm putting this in there, so if you want to skip past this bit and move on to the next video, that's fine by me. This is just like a cancer plug, because I want to do this, as well as also I have to do this, because the thing you've just listened to is illegal for me to do without having a charity case behind it, which I don't want it to be like a situation like, oh, I'm only doing this for the sake of cancer, which I'm actually doing this for the sake of cancer, but I did cancel this series a long time ago. It came to my recent attention that I should redo this in a better format, and I feel like now is a perfect opportunity to actually restart this in the worst possible way. Back in 1st of November, back in 2020, Rachel Kane sadly passed away to a rare bone cancer called sarcoma. Now, in the description below is going to be a link that you can... It's going to be a link so you can support the research into helping people survive and defeat sarcoma bone cancer and soft tissue cancer cells and all that stuff. So that's just going to be in the description right there down below. It is in pounds for those American ones, but obviously PayPal and all the research still goes to the same thing, because once it's been cured, once they found a cure for it or found an easier solution for it and stuff like that, it does get sent around all around the world, because everyone works on the same thing all over the world. It's just that this charity is based in UK. I live in the UK, so it still goes to the same goal to beat sarcoma for a long time, and I feel like this is the best opportunity to work with it for any Rachel King books that we do during the Morganville series or any future series that we do. Obviously, this is even going to be in the future series if we do them. So any book that we do by Rachel Kane is going to have this at the end, just to plug a little bit of a cancer support for people with sarcoma, because it is a rare cancer, and there is not a very good survival rate. So just putting that in there to help people or to support the issues that are out there, because I'm not going to get any money from these videos at all, even in like the present one. I'm not getting any money of this recording, or in the future, if possibly I do. But this is not what I'm about. This is all about for what Rachel Kane succumbed to in the end. So hopefully that as a team together we can beat sarcoma and end one of the cancers that are killing people, because No one likes that. But anyway, have a good day.